All right, let's jump right in. We're going to explore a totally different way of thinking about leadership today. So, for just a minute, forget all the lists of tips and tricks because we're going to ask a much deeper question about what it actually means to lead. You know, when we think about leadership, our minds usually jump to one of two extremes, right? Either you're the my way or the highway authoritarian, or you're the super hands-off, do whatever you want kind of boss. We all know the real answer is probably somewhere in the middle, but what does that middle actually look like? Well, it can get kind of crowded. In fact, when you start looking into it, it's just this dizzying world of styles. Are you supposed to be a democratic leader or a servant leader? Maybe transformational, or is it transactional? It feels less like a clear path and more like you're staring at a confusing restaurant menu, wondering if you need to be a different person for every single member of your team. So, to deal with all this complexity, a really popular solution came along called situational leadership. And the idea is actually pretty simple and logical. A great leader is just flexible. They've got a full toolbox of different styles, and they know exactly which tool to pull out depending on who they're working with and what needs to get done. And the model for it is, well, it's really elegant. It basically says your actions should perfectly match where your employee is at. So for an enthusiastic beginner, you direct them. Then, as they start to learn the ropes, you shift into coaching. Once they get capable, you move to supporting them. And finally, when they're a self-reliant pro, you just delegate. I mean, on the surface, that makes a ton of sense. This whole approach of choosing what to do is definitely practical. But what if focusing on all these different styles and actions is completely missing the point? What if the real source of powerful leadership isn't on the outside, but somewhere much, much deeper? And that right there is the core question we're digging into. What if leadership isn't about the things you do, but about who you are? What if it's an authentic expression that just naturally flows out of you instead of some style you put on like a jacket? Well, this idea has a name. It's called ontological leadership. And hey, don't let the fancy word throw you. Ontology is simply the study of being. So this approach isn't about picking a style from that messy menu. It's about looking inward and actually working on your fundamental way of being. Now, this way of being isn't some vague philosophical idea you can't get your hands on. It's actually a really practical framework. It's made up 3 parts that you can see and work on, and they all interact with each other to create your presence as a leader. They are your language, your emotions, and your body. Let's break those down. First up, language. And this isn't just about what you say out loud. It's that constant chatter inside your own head. Is this new project a huge problem, or is it an exciting challenge? See, the stories you tell yourself and other people, they literally create the reality that you operate in. Second, we've got emotions. Think about your general mood like a filter or a pair of sunglasses. If you're walking around in a mood of resignation, you're going to see problems and roadblocks everywhere you look. But if you can shift into a mood of curiosity, all of a sudden you start seeing possibilities and new paths. And that ability to shift, that's what we call emotional agility. And third, your body, your posture, how you breathe, the tension you hold in your shoulders, it is all communicating something. I mean, think about it. A leader who is literally closed off, arms crossed, shoulders hunched, sends a very different signal than one who is open and present. Our deepest beliefs and moods get physically stored in our bodies, and our body is broadcasting a message 24/7. Okay, so language, emotions, body. It's a neat internal framework. But does this way of being stuff really matter out there in the real world? Well, it turns out the stakes are way higher than you might think. A leader's internal state doesn't just impact a team meeting. It can literally shape the future of a country. One academic paper makes this point powerfully, using a quote from the brilliant novelist Chinua Achebe. The authors of the paper argue that a leader's fundamental worldview, their personal ontology, can have massive consequences, not just for a business, but for an entire society. So what this paper does is it contrasts 2 different worldviews. On one hand, you have a Western individualistic view, where the self is separate and self-interest is the main driver. On the other, a traditional African communal view, where community always comes first. The authors argue that the individualistic mindset can lead to what they call a politics of national cake, It's all about what you can get. Whereas the communal mindset naturally promotes serving the common good. And that just illustrates the stakes perfectly, doesn't it? This isn't just about managing people better. A leader's fundamental way of being is a creative force. It helps build the world that their followers get to live in. From this point of view, leadership is literally world building. Now, here's the really good news. Your way of being isn't set in stone. It's not your destiny. As Olympian and executive coach Stuart Carruthers says, you can train it. You can actually develop your existential muscle through practice. So here's your first workout. Next time you have an important meeting or a tough conversation, just pause for a second and do a quick check-in. Ask yourself, what's my mood right now? Am I curious or am I resigned? Then, what language am I using in my head about this? And finally, how am I holding my body? Do I look like someone who wants to be here? Just noticing is the first, most powerful step to choosing who you want to be in that room. And that is the fundamental shift. Instead of constantly asking, what should I do, we start by asking, who do I need to be? When you focus on consciously being a certain kind of leader, your actions will flow naturally and authentically from that state. You don't need the toolbox anymore. The famous leadership scholar Warren Bennis put it perfectly. He said, becoming a leader is synonymous with becoming yourself. It's precisely that simple, and it's also that difficult. The real journey isn't about mastering a bunch of techniques, it's a journey of self-discovery. So the next time you're facing a leadership moment, remember this. Your impact is a direct result of your way of being. And the most important question you can ask isn't, what will I do? It's, who am I choosing to be right now?